Hello, Ben Mize again, and this time I want to talk about uh, effective strategies for serving God in this time when, if the wrong thing happens, which very well could happen, we could all wind up in martial law. And what is in my opinion, effective thought process for those wanting to repent unto salvation through the grace of God, rejecting the doctrine of demons of the gospel of lawlessness, and choosing to not be hell-bound cowards. So if your goal is to serve God, because they were talking about firearms, a gun is sexy and all that, and could come in quite handy if the country collapses. But for all the stuff Hollywood teaches us about guns, and I would recommend to responsibly and lawfully own and learn how to use a firearm to anybody who's able to. The real effective tool at this point is praying an hour a day for the nation to repent and the Illuminati to get justice, and speaking out and telling other people they need to learn their Second Amendment rights and get a firearm. And if you're new to guns, and you're expecting to prepare for the day that martial law is declared, and guns part of it, but you're still going to starve to death. So what you need to do is organize. And one good thing to do is to have freezers that'll keep the food until martial law is declared, that you fill with bags of flour, peanuts, flax seeds, vitamin pills that have minerals in it, that have goodly levels of vitamins in it and don't have a bunch of junk in them. And have a variety of seeds, because you need a variety of amino acids from the proteins in the seeds, and the flour's your carbohydrates, which is easy to eat if you can't cook it by just mixing it with water. You better get used to eating it though. And the peanuts is your protein and your fats, which you need. And of course flax seeds, and that's cheap too, and you can get some others too, just to be sure you get all your amino acids. And beans, and the vitamin pills, because those things don't really have all your vitamins in it. And that's kind of all you have to eat. And then get a good water filter, like from the InfoWars store, or maybe a big Berkey, and something you can go down to the river or get some rainwater or something out of a puddle, and it'll make it drinkable. And when you do it like that, you can buy enough of a quantity of food that you can have enough that it'll do something. Don't buy $20 per serving pesto sauce with chicken Alfredo freeze dried. And then as far as the gun goes, of course you need bullets, and after a while they will run out, so you need some lead and a kit to refill your cartridges with more primer, powder, and a bullet. And you'll need a mold, and look it up, but and so you'll need to tell people exactly how bad all these conspiracies are, and to say, look, we need to get ready in case we have martial law, and we also need to all be on 2 or 200 social media sites telling it like it is. And you just go to startpage.com or duckduckgo.com and type in list of social media sites, and it's free. And you can get 500 social media sites in a list in 5 minutes like that. And then of course you'll want to have seeds. You'll want to have a place where you can grow the seeds. You want to have a well that you can irrigate the seeds with when the rain stops. And you want to have something that would keep the rain off of you when it's cold. And you want to have enough people that go there and work the seeds and can stay up at all hours of the day and the night watching them for people coming to steal the food. And of course, other people will have guns too and will not have bought food, and they'll come and take yours and your life. And just as a practical note, if America decides that lots and lots of people want to wake up and act like they're not children, then maybe there'd be enough people that would prepare that this could be a long-term solution. This, and of course, thinking about what all you need to do and planning for that, realizing we'd probably get invaded at that point by a foreign army. But if people don't talk enough, that becomes impractical. At least if you do this, you'll have more time to pray to Jesus before you starve to death, that maybe the fact that you were prudent instead of foolish, which is a big sin, and you got all those people together to pray when you knew it was that bad. Maybe you could pray enough that more of you would go to heaven. And that's kind of the practical outlook as far as what good could possibly come of becoming a prepper. Maybe you could outlast long enough to maybe Jesus would come back. But anyway, now as far as like being in the woods or being out there and needing shelter, one thing you can do is find, sticks and limbs and maybe a fallen tree, and dig a little hole and stick a stick or find a tree and make a post, and then you lean another sturdy stick with a Y. If you have your post, you have another stick with a Y branch, and you lean it against the post, and if you can find some vine, or if you buy some string, you can tie it, and then you can lay other sticks up and down the angled Y stick, and that are fairly sturdy, and then you can lay some smaller sticks on that, and then you can maybe put some leaves on top of that, and then get some wet dirt and coat it in it so that it's got a mud finish, and let that dry, and then put more leaves and more mud on it, and layer it up so that when it rains, you'll have enough leaves and mud, and the leaves will help drive off the rain, that you'll stay dry in the night when it's cold. And now's the time to think of what technology you'd want to be able to build, and to buy what you would need to build it with, and to maintain everything with, and to recycle metal scraps that you find laying around, and make a mold that you can melt the metal scraps and pour it into the mold and get a new part out of. And the internet will explain all that to you if you look. And but we really made a mess, and it could get really problematic. But aside from trying to make it, if we don't turn it around and martial law gets declared, really the best strategy is to talk on 20 or 200 social media sites every day. Have your 4-year-old get on camera in full view of the camera, and copy and paste the comments into the comment boxes on all the social media sites, and your wife too, and explain to them, this is the easy way out, because this way you warned others that we had to repent or die, and so did your child and your wife, and you got on the get out of here the easy way list, which means, I don't know, the guillotine or the gas chambers, but I swear to you it's the get out of here the easy way list, and it's the best thing you can do for your kid and your wife. Not to mention, it means that you all took the warnings of the truthers seriously and chose not to be cowards bound for the fires of hell, as the book of Revelation puts it in the ends of, towards the latter couple chapters. It lumps cowards in with sorcerers and murderers, and they are murderers. They just want to act like they're not. But I guess as far as trying to fix things, you need to get a group and try to find a way to legally have a militia that maybe not while they're on the job, but maybe get to know privately some police and military and explain all this to them, that there's so many conspiracies that that they may try to conquer America. There's so much treason. And what are we personally going to do when they declare martial law and ask you, Mr. Police Officer and Mr. Veteran, to confiscate all the guns? Wouldn't that be a great time to have a militia to run to instead of having to confiscate Americans' guns? And they probably have some more relevant knowledge they can get a hold of. But it's a great time to poke around online, real serious like, for strategies and tactics and survival tips and how to make it. And it's a great time to sell that great big old fat boondoggle known as your house and buy something away from the city, and especially a nice double wide that you can pay cash for and still have extra money to prepare with. Stop having to make all those payments. You can probably just go ahead and give the money to InfoWars. Unless you want to get creative and figure out how to start your own news operation. Or there's others. There's rumormillnews.com. I like nasaranews.blogspot.com. And there's a lot of truthers. And the spirit of Elijah has come upon so many people to come online and tell us the truth. And, Steve Quayle, and he needs money I think he's still speaking out. And there's a lot of really cool ideas that are better than firearms that you can find. I think you can propel steel balls with magnetics, and BBs are cheap to come by and they can go really fast and they're made of steel. You might need to find an electrical engineer or something. And you can look up free energy patents. Especially the solid state ones that don't have moving parts and are real easy to build. So, you can make a custom vehicle that runs on free energy, that doesn't need to fill up on gas. You fill the tires up with solid rubber. And these shortwave radios, I think at night, I'd have to look it up, but I think they have a really long range. And, you can get solar panels and build a free energy device and have a hand crank and have some communication, probably, unless they jam everything, but they might not. don't forget to buy lots and lots of paper to plan stuff out on, especially if you're going to be making your own technology and you need to remember how to make it and draw out the details for later. And print out all the stuff you'll need to refer to after the power goes out, especially a Bible. Don't forget your cooking supplies, and you can you can make your own stove that's energy efficient and doesn't make as much smoke. And what you do is you get 2 steel containers and you put one of them inside the other so there's an air gap that insulates it. So, and then you have a hole at the bottom with a flap, and you can open it or lower the flap for more or less air to flow through to control how fast the fire is burning inside. And the hotter it gets, the less smoke it makes, especially if you don't, and what you could do is have a air gap at the bottom that initiates some air in to burn the fuel and vaporize some, and then as it goes up you could have a secondary air inlet so that now all the vaporized fuel gets an even fresher amount of air to further burn. And you can have little air slits that you can open and shut up the smokestack to let fresh air in to further burn the smoke so there's even less smoke if you're worried about being seen. And now's a great time to get creative and make your own stuff. There's this story that down in Mexico they I think they don't let you have firearms or something, but there was this group of people that wanted to have, I think it was to do with land rights, and they wanted to have their own land and grow their own coffee. The government didn't like it, but they had these bolt-action rifles and they grouped together and organized. And it got to where they were kind of off to the side, just growing coffee, weren't really, and it wasn't worth the government's while to go in there because they had bolt-action rifles and there were a fair number of them, so they just left them alone. Now, as far as invading armies coming in, there's lots of things to consider. Fuel tanks typically are not very well shielded, and if they are, probably a armor-piercing round to get through. And then if it was incendiary, the top of the tank would have fumes in it, especially if you made a hole in it. And then, like a tank tread, the tank's probably not going to get penetrated, but like tanks will have, if you can zoom in, will have like cameras on them that are probably not bulletproof, or maybe an armor piercing round would tear it up and they couldn't see as well, especially from a distance. And then like tank treads, if they've got 1,000 miles to drive before they get where they're going, and you got some good 50 cal armor piercing rounds that you can especially get like 3 or 4 shots in right quick at the same point in the tank tread, and make a couple times you do that, then that can damage the tread, and potentially it would flop off after 100 or 1,000 miles of driving, or at least it wouldn't last as long. And then that tank tread's pretty expensive, and after a while of that, and you run off in the woods where the tanks can't drive over the trees to follow, it can be worthwhile. And like a jet engine is real vulnerable to stuff that comes inside of it. But of course, you got to make sure it's the invading army. There's lots of cool stuff that gets left behind sometimes, especially when you come back, because they get out of there, because they don't know what else is hiding. They don't have time to scour the whole woods. Maybe like a day later if it's out in the boonies. But then I guess missiles have a warhead that, isn't totally stable. And I always thought that a projectile going down a loaded cannon potentially could destabilize the warhead in the cannon loaded in the cannon, or in the cannon shell loaded in the cannon. And but unless God holds back, vast sums of super weapons and does vast quantities of miracles like happened during 1776, this is all just an exercise. And I guess there was a point in the Bible where God said to be hauled off to Babylon. But, you got to discern things correctly, not fearfully. And there is a point in a last stand for certain times and certain people's karma and all that. And it's just such hard times we've potentially made for ourselves. Such hard times. But anyway. Well, think smart and pray to God and be loving and wise and get on social media and tell other people to get involved. Because after you tell a couple million people, you got to figure somebody else got involved. And that's probably worth as much as you going all out prepper style. So have a blessed one.